Welcome to Slasher Sports Cinema, division of Slasher Sports, and thank you for tuning in. Before we get started, I want to ask you to hit that subscribe or follow button and turn on those notifications so you don't miss what we're doing. As always on Slasher Sports Cinema, we're taking a look at some of the films I plan on watching this weekend and maybe some that we'll get to see in the future. Get your ass out of the house and into a theater. And to do the same today, I've got my good friend Lucky Cerruti, who made the film, as you can see, UNCLE SLEAZO's Toxic and Terrifying TV Hour. That's a mouthful. It's a lot of alliteration, so stick around.
They will say that I have shed innocent blood. What's blood for, if not for shedding?
I'm my number one fan.
We all go a little mad sometimes.
God, it knows I'm here.
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
You're listening to the Slasher Sports Show with Billy Graves.
Lucky Cerruti, welcome to the show and thank you for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so happy to be here. And that song in the intro there, that pumped me up pretty good. So
Did it? Are you ready?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah,
Man, I'm ready to go chop some lumber. I don't know about you.
for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, that was Carl Casey from White Bat Audio. He's
Shout out. No, that was
big
rad.
out. He is fantastic, man. He's got exactly the vibe we're looking for. We spliced in a few little quotes from some of my favorite flicks.
Absolutely.
Not even like my Mount Rushmore flicks, just like random things that when you hear it in the film, it just creeps you out, man. They're coming to get you, Barbara. That's one of the classics. But
Yep.
There's the Candyman quote. And then if you listen really close, you got Annie Wilkes from Misery. I'm your number one fan.
Oh,
man.
Yeah.
You talk about like getting a horror fan bricked up, son. That'll do it.
Yes, that'll do it.
Man, I was watching Pearl. Maybe a couple.
I haven't seen it yet.
Man, I'm not gonna spoil anything.
Okay.
Not gonna spoil anything. But man, Mia Goth can do anything she wants to do.
That's all I've heard. I've heard that it's a star turn, so I can't wait.
She's been in some films that I guess weren't just home runs.
Mm-hmm.
Good for film people,
Sure.
but maybe not so much for the general. She was in Nymphomaniac and some other just lower budget stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Pearl and X have just completely turned the corner, and I'm sure there's a third installment coming in.
Yep.
So stick around for the post-credit roll.
Okay.
Yeah. It's just a little teaser,
Yeah.
But for an 80s kid like me,
Sure.
I was born in 82, so around the time that the WWF Saturday Night's main event was like at its height, was like 88, 87, and that's when I was 5 and 6, just developing into like a ridiculously stupid pro wrestling fan.
Yeah.
They were using, and you won't find this on YouTube. Okay, you're gonna find the alternate theme song on YouTube, but they used to use that song "My Obsession" in their opening.
Okay.
For Saturday Night's Main Event, for copyright purposes, which is weird to me because you would think that you're already using a WWF video, so why not leave it alone? But if you listen on the WWF or WWE network, you're going to hear the alternate theme they came up with later, so they wouldn't have to pay any cheddar, So, but they kick off this teaser for the third installment of the X trilogy with My Obsession, and it's like, man, I'm ready for this.
Yeah.
And it looks like they're going to go back to the character from the first film X. So Pearl is kind of going to be just a standalone prequel.
Sure.
And then in the timeline, you've got probably X, and then you've got Maxine.
I love that.
Yeah, I love it. And man, he shot all this kind of secretly.
Yeah, which I
Just
really I appreciate. I mean, I can't imagine that was very easy to do in the time of everybody knowing everything. So I really
yeah,
respect that.
yeah. To avoid spoilers, to avoid leaks,
Sure.
it's got to be a task.
Yeah,
But Ty
definitely.
West, man, he's the real deal.
I agree. I'm a fan. I mean, I
I
saw
didn't
House
know
of
him.
Devil.
I didn't know who he
Oh,
was
for real?
prior to X. I was like, I know that guy. When I saw the
Oh,
picture of him, I
interesting.
said, I know that guy. Where do I know that guy? And then it came to light. Oh, he was the guy that got shot in the neck on Your Next.
Yep, exactly.
That's
Yeah.
where I know him.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew he was a director because we did. I had another podcast called Slashers and Screamers before this project,
Mm-hmm.
and it was just a group of 4 people. We'd watch a film, we'd talk about it Sunday night, talk about how absurd, how ridiculous it was, and just pay homage in the best way. We did Who's Next because we kind of 3 of the 4 of us love a good home invasion flick, and we're going to talk about that in a little bit with your project, Kindness of Strangers.
Sure.
In somewhat anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, a good home invasion, man, you can't go wrong with one because it can happen to any of us. Okay, that's what makes it the most frightening of modern horror.
I agree.
The home invasion. And like there are times where you just kind of suspend disbelief and you say, hey, you know what, that was a really good film, and I know it couldn't happen, but I'm going to think about it all weekend. A home invasion flick, a good, well done home invasion, will leave you thinking for a long time.
It'll stay with you. And like you said, it is, among the subgenres, I suppose, that really freak me out and would get under my skin, and make me double check windows and locks and stuff like that. It is a really well done home invasion movie. And yeah, some of them are really fucking scary.
And when you've got people at home that you have to be responsible for, it's even more stress inducing.
I bet. I don't have that, but
well, no, but hey, you know what it's like, man. You've got people that are close to you, and if they're there with you and you have to take care of them, it's wild, man. It is so wild. But there are a lot of good horror films out right now. I mean, Smile, absolutely. Barbarian, Hellraiser's dropping soon.
I can't wait.
Man, that's probably, at the time of the recording, I believe it's 2 days from now.
Oh, is that right? Oh, wow. I guess I didn't realize how soon that was.
Pretty close. And then Terrifier 2 is dropping tomorrow from the time you're listening, if you even listen. It's going to be the day of. So,
wow, crazy.
What have you seen lately that you've liked?
I did see Barbarian in the theater. That was the last kind of theater movie that I went to see. I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the first half of it, that tension that they built. I thought that was really, really great. The second half was fun. It did what it was supposed to do.
Sometimes when you set that expectation early, though, it's hard to match that the entire film.
Totally.
It's not a diss to say the second half was worse.
Not at all.
Completely
not at all. And I just think it was a different movie, which I think was what the intention was. I mean, from somebody watching it, they wanted that turn, and they definitely achieved that. The first half, just for me, worked a little bit more just for my sensibility and my what affected me about the movie. But it was a good time. It's crazy that we're living in a time where a movie like that was the number one movie in the world for a minute, and it got a huge wide release, and that's just really cool to see. So I'll never complain about that.
Yeah, you got a couple of guys like Justin Long and Bill Skarsgård who are, I mean, right now. Well, first of all, Justin Long is the hardest working man in horror.
He's
at
really going at it lately with the genre stuff. I'm happy to see that. It seems like he's working a ton, and he always does good work. So I'm happy to see it. And Bill Skarsgård, the same thing. I thought he was great in that movie. Really was.
Really the trailer really sets you up for an expectation that you don't get, right?
I didn't even see the trailer before I went into the movie.
Wow.
I didn't watch. I knew the least that you could know about a movie going into Barbarian, and I felt like it worked, especially for and as my friends went to go see it, that's what kept coming back, is that, like, don't go into it, like, the less you know, the better it'll work for you. And I think that is cool that that people are like looking out for that, like
No doubt.
go,
Doubt.
rather than like, oh, you won't fucking believe what happens. It's like, don't just go into it blind and you'll have a good time. I thought that was cool.
And in this one, I think even though you if you did see the trailer, you're gonna get swerved.
I bet.
Because, they
sure.
set the expectation that this 6'4" Bill Skarsgård
Sure.
and this probably 5'6" Georgina Campbell, you set that mismatch, right? That matchup, him standing next to her. Oh, he's towering over. She's in trouble, and then the shit happens.
And then the shit happens. Exactly. Yeah. No, it was a good time. It was a good time. Another one that I saw kind of recently, it was a few months back, but one that I keep coming back to thinking about is Men. Did you see Men?
I have not seen Men yet.
Man, oh man. I really, really had a good time with that one.
Where'd you see that one?
I saw it in the theater.
Okay.
Yep. But I'm sure that it's by now probably on, you can stream it or rent it or whatever. Alex Garland. I was unfamiliar with any previous film of theirs, but man, Men just really worked for me. Really, really worked for me. And again, it's that feeling kind of, in a sort of, it's not a home invasion movie by any means, but that feeling of kind of isolation and helplessness that elicits that reaction in me when I watch something like a home invasion movie. It really brought that out of me in a new way that I wasn't, that I hadn't experienced with another film. So that was super exciting. It's really unique. There's a lot of body horror stuff, especially toward the end, not to spoil anything, but you're not expecting it. It comes out of nowhere, and it's really cool and super fun. And again, just a fucking weird movie that got a huge release. I'm loving that lately. There's been a lot. I mean, even going back to something like Malignant or something like that. Just these weird movies that are getting these huge releases. It makes me very excited as somebody who like makes kind of weird stuff. That's like, man, it could happen. You know what I mean? Like it's cool.
Well, you talk about things that, unknown people. I just saw Smile, and Parker Finn, I believe, is the director of that. And I know who he is. The name is not sounding right in my head as I'm saying it. and that's, I think it's Parker Finn. But he basically, this is his first feature film. And he got such a huge budget for it from a huge company.
That's amazing.
And he did great with it. First of all, a couple of repeat tropes, but I mean, there's not an original idea out there to be had,
Right.
I mean, you just kind of have to take it in a different direction. And their marketing was genius.
Oh my God. I haven't seen the movie yet, but I've been seeing those clips of the people at sporting events and like all of these things. And the trailer. So when I saw Barbarian, they had a trailer for Smile, and it was super short and like I don't even remember if there was any dialogue in the trailer. It was just this little mini scene. And then it just said Smile, and like it didn't give you anything. But I was like, "Whoa, what? Who would make a film like that? And what is this movie?" It really worked. It did the job. I was like, man, I'm gonna have to check this out.
Well, they were sending people out to baseball games, to the Today Show, standing there smiling at the camera, and it's like, okay, we see what you're doing, and we love it.
Yeah,
we love it.
Yeah, for sure.
But it was either Reeves Elliott or Brandon Bassam that told me we should meet and talk. Probably Brandon. He was my most recent guess, but it may have been Reeves because he hits me up on the regular.
I've met Brandon a couple of times working at the Troma offices, but I had just spent, at the time of recording this, the previous weekend with Reeves, director of The Secret of Cuck Island, at Cinema Wasteland, which is a fantastic film festival / convention. If anybody is in the Ohio area, definitely go and check that out. But They were screening Cuck Island, and they were also screening my films, Sleazo, Uncle Sleazo's Toxic and Terrifying TV Hour, and Freak. And I had known Reeves through mutual friends and stuff. We had met a couple of times, but I really got to like hang out with him over the weekend. My company, Dead Vision Productions, had a table. I was like, if you want to throw some copies of Cuck Island on here and, be my guest, let's hang out, whatever. So I would imagine that it would have been Reeves, because I don't know if Brandon knows who I am. I mean, maybe he does, but I don't know.
He was talking about, Brandon and I were talking about some upcoming festivals.
Oh, sure.
And yeah, there's a possibility he saw, something, but it probably was Reeves. If you guys were at that same table and at the same event over the weekend, then it's a very good chance that's where I got it. But so tell me about Dead Vision Productions.
Yeah, so I formed this company, Dead Vision Productions, in 2018. I live in New York City. I live in Manhattan. I moved to the city in 2016 to be an actor. Like, I thought that that's what I wanted to do. And there's a million other people that have that same idea living in New York City. And as everybody does, I had to get a day job. And in 2018, I started a new job at this kind of experimental theater. It's a show called Sleep No More. It's a big kind of immersive theatrical experience. It's non-traditional. It's pretty cool. But I met a lot of people. This was really the first time that I had met so many people that were kind of feeling the same way that I was, in the way that, you move to the city and you're going on all these auditions, and it's a series of waiting for permission to be told that you can do what you want to do. And that never really sat well with me. I would just always just rather make my own stuff and do my own stuff. I mean, nobody's going to tell me what I can do. You know what I mean? I would just much rather make it happen myself. But that's not necessarily the way that it works if you're trying to, be an actor. And I was meeting all of these people in this place, and they were all feeling that very similar way. And I met a friend of mine named Sam, and we were like talking about it. And it started as just like mutual interest. Like, we were both huge genre fans. We were talking about all the same movies that we liked and all of this stuff. And we were like, let's write a script. Let's just write a script, and then we can maybe like put it on somewhere. But, let's just write one. And it was going to be a play. But then we were like, wow, I mean, we could, like, it's harder to put on a play than it is to just like make a movie. Cause like everybody now has a camera in their pocket, essentially. So it turned into this screenplay, and it was going to be like this kind of like Swanberg-y, mumblecore serial killer type movie. It was, I don't know. It never got made because every time we would meet to write it, we would just end up making this master list of everything else, every other idea that we've ever had for something to do, a weird idea for a script or a TV show or something. And it just, we never wrote the script, but what we had was this big list of projects that we have ever dreamed about doing.
On a wider scale, though, like, isn't it possible that that's the project you were meeting to do? I mean, you thought you were getting together to put the script together. What you were really getting together to do is put that list together. Well,
that's just it. And then, so we, after like, a few weeks of not writing the script, we were like, well, we have this thing. Let's make a little production company. And we have all of these friends that that just are dying to be a part of something and to do something, Let's just see if we can make some of these. Let's see. I mean, what's the worst that can happen is we have some fun over a weekend and we have this shitty thing that we can laugh about with our friends. Like, honestly, there's no stakes in this. So like, let's just try it. So we brought on another friend of ours, Eddie, and the three of us made what is now Dead Vision Productions. And really, it just started as making these really dumb shorts over the weekend with our friends. And over, the months, we were like, man, this is like something that we're not only having a really good time doing, but we're learning so much as we go.
Continuous improvement.
Yeah, exactly. And it was the first time that any of us had really had like a video diary, essentially, of getting better at something, which was super exciting. So in the summer of 2019, we were like, okay, so let's like actually try to do something that's like a little bit more elevated in terms of production and taking it a little bit seriously and not just goofing off with our friends over the weekend. Let's like carve out a chunk of time to go upstate and shoot something. So I wrote, I had no interest in writing or directing when I first got into it. Like, it was going to be a vehicle for me to act, essentially. But I was like, oh, I mean, why not? Nobody's like volunteering for this. In hindsight, it would have been better to like find people that like wanted to do different stuff, but we all wanted to act. Like, it was just a vehicle for all of us to want to act. But so that first one, I was like, okay, I'll bite the bullet on this one and write and direct it. So I wrote Kindness of Strangers over the summer. And then we shot it probably in August, if I'm remembering right, maybe July or August. We took like a few days, a long weekend, went upstate where I'm from and shot it. And that was that. And that really, then it was like, it was over. I was like, oh, I figured it out. Like, this is the thing. Which was
exciting. I've seen 3 of your projects in the last week. Okay.
Sure.
And I'm just going to be honest. The Kindness of Strangers is my favorite of the 3.
Okay, that's interesting because that is not the first time that I've heard that, and I don't take offense to that one bit. I'm super proud of that one. There is something about it being the first one that's like super special to me. I haven't seen it in a minute, and I'm sure that there would be parts of it that like would drive me nuts to watch.
Oh yeah, there were parts of it that I said, yeah, that would drive him nuts today.
Yeah,
today.
Yeah.
But the thing is, okay. You gave me the overall spiel of how Dead Vision Productions started.
Mm-hmm.
Indulge me on the beginning of Slasher Sports. Okay.
Yeah, please.
So Slasher Sports was done because a friend of mine and I were writing baseball articles for another company called Overtime Sports Heroics. Okay. I'm not afraid to shout them out because they're good people. However, it was not what we wanted to do because we didn't like the direction. We didn't like certain elements of maybe pushing your own workout. You're all the time waiting, like you said, hurry up and wait. You're waiting for someone else to get your work out there. So this guy and he may have left a little more disgruntled than I did. But when he left and we had like ideas, because he was an editor, I was a writer, he would look at my stuff and he would be like, hey, man, you write really well. So, man, if you ever think about doing this, I'm going with these other guys and we're going to do the same thing, just a little edgier, just a little more like us, a little less polished. So I said, you know what? To hell with it. I'm not doing anything here. It's really saturated where we are. So I jumped over with those guys. Well, those guys turned out to not have really, they were a little too unpolished. Mm. Okay. When you're trying to sell the sport of baseball, there's a certain, I guess, presentation that you don't want to have and you do want to have. And you can go edgy without being just completely filthy.
Sure. So
we said, you know what? Or he said, you know what? I'm not with it. I'm leaving. And because I was brought on, I said, man, listen, guys, the project is fine. But it would be weird if I stayed and, he just left. And a little time went by. And I also wanted to get horror film involved in what I was doing. I almost made them like two separate projects. Well, on the side, I'm a little bit of a data guy. Okay. And so I basically from scratch over the course of a pretty good while, I made a daily fantasy sports optimizer. Okay. So I pull a lot of data. I hit a few buttons. I update the information on a daily basis. I click the button and it gives me today's optimal roster for DraftKings. Okay, so based on my own data and what I feel that I know about baseball, like who's going to have the best games today, give me those 10 guys. And I called that the DFS, Daily Fantasy Sports, the DFS Slasher. Okay, and because it's slashing through all the data, I just named it that because I love slasher films. So when I got back with this guy Christian, who's my partner at Slasher Sports, I said, "Hey man, this is what I'm doing. Called the DFS Slasher." Later on, it just kind of evolved into, "Hey man, let's do this. Let's talk about covering sports, and we'll call it Slasher Sports, and we'll do the daily fantasy sports. We'll do baseball reporting." And I said, "Well, I'm also going to do some horror stuff." Okay, cool. And so we thought, well, hell, sports and horror doesn't really mix. Wrong.
Sure.
Every horror guy that I know grew up playing baseball in his little league park, loves football, loves MMA, loves boxing. So it's a false dichotomy to say that the nerds and the athletes don't mix, because a lot of us are the same people.
Totally. I would imagine that there would be more crossover than people would probably think.
We put it to the test. We ran a Twitter poll, and and I said, well, "Why are you here? Sports only, horror only, sports and horror?" Or the fourth option was, "I don't know why I'm here." That got like 2 votes, sure. But the majority, the overwhelming majority, was sports and horror.
Wow.
And I said, "Well, I'll be damned." So today we run this thing together. It's he handles the college football. I'm handling the horror stuff, talking to great filmmakers like yourself. And here we are. So, man, at the end of the day, if you're learning as you go, you're doing what every single other human on earth who is perfecting his or her craft is doing. So I applaud you for that. As far as the kind of strangers, sure, there's maybe like a shadow that could have gone away, or maybe there's like a sound effect that could have been different. But dude, I'm from a small town. Okay, 1,200 people. You too. Yeah, Manhattan seems small. No, I'm kidding, dude. I know. You. Where are you originally from?
I am from where we shot that movie. It's a very small town in upstate New York called Lake Placid, New York.
Lake Placid.
Very, very, very small.
Well, Christian is from I don't know exactly where, but he's from I believe northern New York as well.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, smaller place. Sure. Probably closer to Buffalo.
Okay, all right.
Just guessing. Guessing.
A little bit further west, but yeah, it's up
maybe.
There.
So, yeah, coming from a small town, this is kind of one of those things where, and we're going to get into UNCLE SLEAZO in a little bit. Mm-hmm. But I do want to talk about the Kindness of Strangers.
Please,
this is your directorial debut. This is kind of like what made you.
Yeah, right.
At the beginning, this is the identity that you carved out for yourself. So, just the small town creepiness that you find in films. I mean, you're talking about the Children of the Corn. You're talking about the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. You're talking about a lot of films where people show up and they go missing, and everybody knows who did it. Everybody knows who did it, but they can't stop them because you can't prove it. The police are in their back pocket, or they're related to them. I mean, you're talking about a Motel Hell type of situation. It's just fucking great. Okay, you can't stop the small town crazies.
Yeah.
And this is kind of one of those films.
I agree. Yeah. So thank you for saying all of that. That was really where I wanted it to live, in that, because that is a very real feeling for me. It's kind of, as you know, it's a little, suffocating at
claustrophobic.
Yeah, exactly. Feeling like everybody knows everybody's business, everybody's,
Except you.
Right. It can definitely feel that way. But so that's kind of where I wanted to go. That's what I knew, and as somebody who really has never written a screenplay, had never written a screenplay up until that point. I think the one thing that you hear when you're like, how do you even start? Blah, blah, blah. People will tell you to write what like that's kind of the cliche thing to say. And I kind of took that to heart, and I wrote what I thought that I knew, which was small town, kind of feeling kind of on the outside of that sometimes, and feeling freaked out by the people that might know what's going on and you don't know, and stuff. So like, that was definitely the birthplace of Kindness of Strangers. And again, I thought that it would kind of pair well with a home invasion-ish type deal. And when I wrote that, I mean, we were talking about Barbarian earlier. You're kind of seeing more Airbnb type horror movies popping up, now. There was another one a couple years ago. It was like The Rental or something like that. I can't really remember. But when I wrote that, it didn't seem to me like there was a lot of those. Like Airbnb seemed like an untapped market as far as how creepy it actually is.
It's relatively new.
Right.
In popularity anyway.
For
People
sure.
have always done a bed and breakfast, but
Totally.
like it's like the Airbnb thing is relatively new to especially to like the online, the internet age, I guess.
Yes, absolutely.
And Winona Ryder just had a film as well. Dermot Mulroney was in it.
Oh, no
and
kidding.
Yeah, the name is escaping me, but it's basically the opening act of Barbarian. They show up as a couple to a home where they rented, and there's already another couple there, and
interesting.
Somebody goes missing, and there's twists and turns, and it's
cool.
really really fun film.
Sweet.
But I mean, this is new, uncharted territory as far as the horror genre goes, and I dig that you did it.
Yeah, it was cool, and the first time that I ever stayed at an Airbnb, it was with my then girlfriend, and I remember saying to her, I was like, "Man, this is weird," and like it takes away all of the work of a home invasion. They're coming to you if you've
invaded the home already.
Exactly. So if you're like somebody that wants to torture some people, like, set up an Airbnb, because they'll just like come to you. You don't have to do any work.
That's the spider web. The Airbnb is their spider
exactly.
web.
So that's kind of where my head was at with it. But yeah, I'm super happy that you. I always like finding people that are like, that one is the favorite, because that just feels good. Well,
there's a sense of realness for me, and
for sure,
you're at the mercy of that homeowner.
Definitely,
you've wandered into their home. They could have put things in that home to spy on you.
Right.
You can't do anything about it. All you can do is sit there on that bed frozen thinking, man, well, look around. What could be a camera? And, we're talking about like blending genres. You got the voyeurism of like 13 cameras or No Vacancy.
Sure. Yeah.
You got the hillbilly killers like Texas Chainsaw.
Yeah.
You got the prisoner horror like the Green Inferno. I mean,
sure.
this is a blending of genres, and you may have accidentally done it, but you accidentally did it. Okay, cool. So that's the name of the game.
Awesome.
So where can people see Kindness of Strangers? I was, you were kind enough to let me screen this one, and very happy you did. Where can the general public find this one?
Absolutely. So it's a couple of places. If you're a physical media person,
as you should be.
Yes, agreed. I actually just brought it was out of print for a little while. It is back in print. I had some copies at Cinema Wasteland, and I am just about to, thank you for reminding me, by the way, put it back up on the website. So deadvisionproductions.com, you'll be able to grab a copy there. It is also streaming on the website for a couple bucks. But if you have Troma now, the streaming platform from Troma. It is on there as well. So if you're already paying for that, you can check it out there. But yeah, that's how you can see Kindness of Strangers, my directorial debut, as it were.
We're going to put all the links that we can in the episode description.
Cool.
And you'll find that everywhere: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. Gio Savan over in India. Gosh, man, India is like our second biggest market for our podcast, which is wild to me.
Shout out India. I haven't sent a DVD to India yet, so
well, there's your sign, listeners from Gio Savan. Like, click on the link, buy this thing, get deported from your home because these films are wild.
Yeah.
Well, you went on a different direction with Freak, and I guess tell me about the inception of that idea.
Yeah, that was a couple of different reasons behind that. So after Kindness of Strangers, the other two founding members of Dead Vision, we went our separate ways. I don't know. I don't want to speak for anybody, but and there's no bad blood for sure. But
just creative, probably.
Well, no, I mean, not even that. It was just, I think it was a lot of like, maybe it was more of a hobby than I was kind of now realizing that it could have been a little bit more than that. So regardless, I was like, just let me have the film, let me have the name, all of that. And they were like, fine, do with it, whatever. So that was, right around the time of the new year into 2020. And then I was like, well, fuck, now I don't have anybody to like do this with. It's hard to like put something together yourself. And then the world ended. And then I was like, oh man, now it's going to be like, maybe this is done. Maybe this is the sign that like, I shouldn't be doing this.
Yeah.
But I reached out to a lifelong friend of mine that we had worked together. We had done a lot of theater together. We very good friends. Matt Sorensen is his name.
That name sounds familiar.
Yeah. So he
Puppet guy?
An executive producer. Yes, the puppet guy. That's exactly right. So he we were actually going to we had something else planned. We were going to do a stage production of Frankenstein. But then COVID hit and we couldn't obviously do that. And we were kind of like scrambling. We were like, man, like we want to do something, but like, I know that it's hard to do right now, but and I was like, well, let's just like go out into the woods. Let's take some, like a really small team and let's go make a movie. And he was like, okay. So
with no idea what it was going to be.
Well, what I had was the opening. I tend to write kind of disjointed. I write from like a kill or a set piece or something like that, and then kind of build around it.
Okay.
That's just a little bit more fun for me than working, front to back.
That is your creative method.
I suppose.
Who is anybody to question your creative method, right?
Well, thank you. Yeah.
That's what makes you.
So I had the opening kill sequence. I didn't know that it was a monster. I didn't know what was doing it. I didn't know how it was going to fit into anything, but I had that. And then I had another kind of skeletal script that was actually supposed to take place in the city. I wanted to shoot it in the city about kind of this creature that lived in the subway system. So I had both of those things and I was like, man, let me kind of cobble together an idea from both of these so that I at least have a starting place, so we can kind of shoot in the summer. So I put those together. I rounded out some stuff. I added a lot, obviously. And then what I had was the first draft of Freak. And I sent it to Matt and I was like, is this something that you would want to do? And he's like, yeah, but we're going to make Arthur a puppet because I don't want to do And I kind of felt the same way. I didn't really want to do a man in a mask or a man in a suit sort of deal. I didn't feel like I had much to add to that, and that easily could have been that avenue. But I thought it was super. We both thought that it was more interesting to kind of make it something that isn't immediately identifiable as something that people had or could be like, oh, that's what's wrong with him, or oh, he is this, or whatever. He's more monster than he is human, even though he's supposed to be a human in the movie, which like is kind of an interesting thing to me. So, but yeah, that's how that came about. It was a reaction, I guess, to a whole lot of things that were going on. So we took just a few people and we went out into the woods and we made this movie.
You came out with Freak.
Yeah.
Watching Freak, I actually thought, at least at the beginning, that it was a stop motion thing.
We get that all the time. We get that
like a claymation kind of a situation.
Yeah. We get that all the time. Which I'm not mad about. I would love to do stop motion someday. But yeah, so
stop motion is where it's at. It's got its perks. It's got its fallbacks. But when you last week I made a joke about Kate Upton and Justin Verlander taking those nude pics in front of the mirror.
Oh, sure.
Like, listen, when Kate Upton tells you we're taking nude pictures in front of the mirror, we're taking nude pictures in front of the mirror. When Sorensen says we're doing a puppet movie, we're doing a puppet movie.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I mean, he had just when we shot it, he had just recently graduated. He got his master's in puppetry. So like, I was like, man,
I didn't even know you could get a master's in puppetry.
I didn't know either. But you can.
So he just shows up, unscrolls it. Look,
this is it. This is how we're gonna do it. But yeah, he had the idea of making it. I mean, Matt is 6'4", 6'5", so he's a big guy in general. And Arthur stands, at least a couple inches taller once he's like, all stretched out. So he's a big guy. And Matt wore him kind of like a reverse backpack puppet. So the torso was like on his torso, like in the front. He had his arms. If you grab a DVD, either from my site or the Wild Eye release of it, there's a whole behind the scenes about how we made Arthur, how he works, all that sort of stuff. But
like a featurette.
Yeah, for sure. So the full body puppet, he's got legs that strap onto Matt's legs, and Matt was in a green screen suit. So we just removed Matt from the footage, and what you get is this weird, like, he doesn't move like anything moves, for better or for worse. And but then there was a close-up head, and the eye moves, and anytime you see him drool or bite something or whatever, that's just a head with like the back cut out, so we could work the controls. And then there are some live hands that are gloves that Matt wore. So yeah, I mean, unfortunately, I want to be able to say that we used stop motion because I think it's so cool, but we didn't. It's all just puppets.
Well, like I said, when you've got Kate Upton, you use Kate Upton. Okay, that's the name of the game.
He'll laugh when he hears that.
I hope so, because man, comparing anybody to Kate Upton is just difficult. But this goes back to the why I said you should be buying physical copies of things, especially if it's maybe a project that's not like your giant Hollywood productions. Okay, Vudu will, if you buy a film on Vudu, they give you the featurettes for a lot of the films.
That's right. I didn't know that.
Yeah, but on others though, if you're just streaming it, if you're just renting it, you don't get those things. So the physical copy is going to give you those director's commentaries or just those little mini featurettes, and you miss out on that if you don't have a physical copy. So I always suggest a good physical copy, even though my physical copy library is not extensive. I'm not a collector, but what I want, I'm going to get, and I'm going to have to visit.
I'm the same way.
What is that website again?
Deadvisionproductions.com.
Boom. There it is. And I assume we can see Freak on in the same avenues as Kindness of Strangers.
Absolutely. And like I said before, Freak has been also put out by Wild Eye Releasing. It's a beautiful release. The cover is sick. But I also have that original edition as well, still available on the site. So whichever you prefer, or both, they're around. So go grab them. And Freak, if you're not a physical media person, Freak is streaming for free on Tubi. Which is super exciting. So check that out.
Tubi's
as well.
fucking great.
I know.
Tubi is great.
I know.
I'll tell you what, though, you got to be careful. If you fall asleep watching Tubi, you'll go to bed thinking you've been watching Godzilla, and you'll wake up watching The Love Witch, and you'll think, when the fuck did this happen? And Godzilla raids again.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay.
Yeah, they don't ask you like Netflix. So, are you still watching?
Yeah.
Right, when some guy's daughter has her feet behind her ears, that's 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 the Netflix way. Tubi, they don't stop. They're gonna let you finish.
We got you.
Well, Lucky, are you ready to check out this UNCLE SLEAZO trailer with me?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Oh, yeah. All right, talk me through it, my man.
All right. Oh, we can talk through this?
Boils and ghouls.
Oh, we can talk through it.
Of all ages.
Who's this old codger?
This is your dear old Uncle SLEAZO. So what we wanted was to harken back to a time of some kind of questionably goofy public access horror host, and he's gonna be your host of the evening, bring you through 3 segments, which are the films that he's showing. He shot full commercial breaks in this thing. We really wanted it to play out like a block of cable TV. It's super fun. It's goofy. It's weird. It's Uncle SLEAZO's Toxic and Terrifying TV Hour. We're super good with this. I teamed up again with Matt Sorensen, and we had a really good time working on this. We made it, over the span of like a year and a half, with how we shot it. We shot the segments, here and there when we could, because again, the world was kind of coming back to some sense of normalcy, I suppose, and it was hard to get everybody together when we could. So we made it happen, and it's cool. Some of this is the best stuff that we've ever done, for sure. I think so. That's cool to see as well.
Continuous improvement, man.
That's what it's about.
Continuous improvement. I like how you went with the host format in UNCLE SLEAZO. It reminds me of one of my favorite shows as a young teenager, Tales from the Crypt. And,
sure.
The Crypt Keeper was actually bigger than any single episode or star that ever showed up in the series. I assume you did that as some sort of, like, maybe not an homage or anything like that, but just I guess, why did you go with the host format? You wanted this to play out like an hour of cable TV, like classic cable TV.
Yeah, so I thought it was a fun idea and less limiting in a way. I guess if I'm completely honest with you, I just didn't want to work as hard in trying to find a wraparound that would appropriately encapsulate the segments that we wanted to do. So if you give a host that kind of leaves it open, an open avenue to kind of, it can be whatever, because he would show whatever he wanted. And we had the actor Jordan in mind from the beginning. We knew that he would have a lot of fun with that, and he sure did. So it just, a lot of it played into it in the way that it just seemed like the thing to do. And then we got even more excited about the idea of shooting the full commercials.
I like that.
Cool.
I love the commercials.
Cool. Thank you. So yeah, we got to do some fake trailers for movies that don't exist, and funny, toy commercials and cologne and whatever. We just what was the
name of that cologne?
Captivity cologne.
Captivity. Yes.
Yeah.
That. And then there was a cameo, or I guess, I don't know if it's considered a cameo if it's in character, but you had a short cameo of your of your couple from Kind of Strangers.
That's
Like
right.
I think they
That's
were like
right.
on the back of a milk carton or something like that. I can't remember.
So
Maybe
yeah,
a
so
missing poster.
there was a little bumper. I don't even know if they still do them anymore. I can't remember the last time I watched TV. Probably in a hotel somewhere. But the like tonight at 11 bumpers, like for the news, like that'll play later. It's an anchor, and it shows the photo
That's
like
what it
right
was.
here, and he's like, still no sign of the couple that went missing. Blah blah blah. I liked the idea of tying in my other movies. It doesn't alienate anybody if you haven't seen them, like whatever. But for those
Cool
who
Easter
have,
egg.
oh, cool. And then there's a freak callback a little bit later in the movie. There's like a commercial for the campground in Freak. So yeah, that was like just super exciting to me to be able to have that format where it was a little bit more free form in terms of the ideas that we could do. There was no idea that was like too weird or out there or didn't fit in a mold because it had to be this way. We could really entertain whatever we wanted because we did it this way, which was exciting.
Well, something I thought of when I was watching this film was, and it's a very different film, honestly, but there was an early to mid 90s film with John Ritter. It was called Stay Tuned. Not a horror film, just I guess you could consider it a horror film if you really open up what you consider horror. But basically, he and his wife get sucked into their satellite dish, which is a very early to mid 90s thing to say. Anyway,
Yeah.
but basically, he's like a TV junkie, right? At the beginning, they kind of open it up with his wife's nagging him, and he's like, okay. And there's like a minute 13 left in the ball game he's watching. He's like, okay, I'll be there in 1 minute and 13 seconds. And they get sucked into this brand new satellite dish that's sold to them by the devil himself.
Oh,
Played by Jeffrey Jones, who is the principal in Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
oh, gotcha. Okay.
So yeah, so he's known for a lot of other films, but that's where you would know him if you watched it during that time, which I did on my own giant satellite dish that I didn't get sucked up into. But they would have these TV shows and commercials that were offshoots of real life TV shows. Like there was a show called Northern Exposure.
Yep.
Kind of a like, I don't know, Montana type of situation. Could have been in Canada. I don't even know. But the name of this one was Northern Overexposure, where they're basically trapped out in the snow and they're going to freeze to death if they don't get out. There was My Three Sons from back in the 70s, maybe. Well, the show on Stay Tuned was My Three Sons of Bitches. And there were numerous other examples, but it reminded me of, the parody that was cable TV back in the day.
Sure.
And so, I mean, I love the idea. Just way more rough around the edges than the Hollywood production that was Stay Tuned.
Totally.
But I loved it, man. And I guess if we're going to give any kind of teaser for Uncle Sleazo, I guess we can talk about the first chapter briefly before pitching the rest. I love.
I'm happy to talk about whatever you want to talk about. I don't think that there's much to be spoiled in this movie, to be honest with you. So we can talk about whatever you'd like to talk about. But yeah,
Well,
I mean,
you want people to watch it, and like the best way to do it for me was this opening segment, this first chapter, the black and white. Believe it was called Curse of the Beta Wolf.
That's right.
Yeah, so I mean, I'll watch a lot of black and white. Sometimes silent films.
Sure.
And it's honestly a good break from the, I guess, visually charged horror that we see today.
Yeah.
Do you have like what were your, I guess, what were you thinking of going into Curse of the Beta Wolf? Was there some kind of homage you were doing there?
Well, we wanted to, so in thinking of the type of films that Uncle Sleazo, if he was real, would play on his show, the first thing that we really thought of was kind of something that would be in public domain, right? A lot of these kind of the public access ilk of the horror hosts probably wouldn't have access to a lot of movies with rights or anything like that. So they would find a pretty shitty black and white public access movie to show and to, whatever. so that was kind of the idea behind that. And in thinking of the segments, just broad strokes, we thought it would be fun to have kind of a supernatural one, an alien-ish one, and then a monster one. And the first one being that monster werewolf type of movie. We wanted to have kind of like the crossfade transformation stuff, and like, you know, not a lot of dialogue, a lot of scoring, questionable character stuff, and, you know, just like not really thinking about it too hard. You know what I mean?
But that's what those films were.
Totally. That's what those films were. So that go ahead.
The transformation scene.
Mm-hmm.
I thought about that, and I think about how important a transformation scene is in a werewolf film. Yeah. And the best I ever saw was probably on that series Hemlock Grove. But
which I didn't see.
There are a lot of others that I've probably missed along the way. What was it like filming that scene? How much, I guess, importance did you put on the transformation?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's like the thing, you know, that's like when you watch a werewolf movie, you're not like, oh, I can't wait to see, you know, it's the transformation. That's
him transform off screen, right?
Exactly. Yeah. At least for me, I'm a big fan of that, you know, original. I loved, as a kid, I loved Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman. Like that movie, more so than the original Wolfman, that was the movie for me. I really loved that. But yeah, those slow, we wanted to do that. We didn't want it to feel any different than what it would have felt like. And it was hard, man. It was tough. But like with the hand, we did the hand first, and then, you know, I just remember, I can't remember if it's in the original Wolfman or if it's in Frankenstein Meets Wolfman, but there is a transformation where he's just laying on a bed and he's not moving. He doesn't look like he's in any kind of pain, Lon Chaney Jr., and it's just happening to him. Like which you know, Rick Baker changed the game pretty much with that. I mean, the most painful transformation scene ever in American Werewolf in London, yes. Arguably. You can feel the pain of that, but this is not that at all. He's just very peacefully laying there. He's totally awake.
As hair grows.
Hair grows, right. And I thought that was super fun, and I wanted that. So like, okay, lay on the bed, and you're just going to change, and that's fine. So yeah, I mean, it was a lot of like laying on the bed, getting what we needed, and then getting up, like making sure that we marked it exactly to the best of our ability, exactly where he was on the bed. And then he would get up, made up a little bit more, and then, okay, lay down. All right, we got it. Okay, good. Get up, do a little bit more. Okay, lay down. So it took a while, but it was good. It was cool.
I love that. I love that so much. Well, where have you taken UNCLE SLEAZO thus far? It's waist deep in the festival scene right now, is it not?
Well, yeah. I mean, so oddly, this one hasn't, and partially due to my own kind of negligence, I suppose. But I don't like that. It hasn't really been doing a lot of festivals. We played Cinema Wasteland over the weekend. We just did few weeks ago, we did a few shows at a theater in New York, Film Noir Cinema. We did 3 nights, I think, which was really, really cool. I've never had a movie play in the city before.
That was a first for you.
Yeah, that was a first for me.
How'd that go?
It was amazing. It was surreal, truly. It's this really cool theater. The front of it is like a video store, and in the back is the theater itself. It used to be a funeral home, so it like feels really cool. And yeah, we did 3 nights, and it was crazy, really, really cool. It was the first time I'd ever heard somebody I didn't know that was somebody off the street, assumably, saying, I'd like 1 ticket for UNCLE SLEAZO, please. And that was a weird trip, man. But so what we've been doing with Sleazo, rather than doing festivals, we have been setting up screenings that we can go to. So that we have
Yes.
another one at the end of the month. It's kind of like the hometown screening of it.
That was my next question. Like,
Yeah,
where was it going?
So my first job ever when I was 15 or whatever was a projectionist at the local movie theater, the Palace Theater in Lake Placid. And it's just really full circle to have a movie that I made playing there. Freak played there last year, which was so weird. So we're going to do it again for Sleazo and have everybody come out. Uncle Sleazo will come out. He'll be there, which will be really cool. So yeah, we have a screening set up in Toronto, Canada, in December. So we're just kind of like putting it in places that, like, rather than festival, I have nothing against festivals. But for this one, I kind of wanted to try to kind of
A little more personal.
yeah, a little more personal, a little more feeling like it's playing in theaters, if that
Yeah.
makes sense. You know, like,
No, that
booking
makes
it
perfect sense.
where like fans can go. Not that fans don't go to festivals, but you know what I mean. It's like a different crowd, I think.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what kind of we're trying to do, and hopefully, I mean, we are in talks with a distribution company that people would know. I don't want to jinx anything by saying the name of the company.
No, don't. I'm not gonna have that blood on my hands.
I would. But yeah, so we're working with it, and I'm glad that people are enjoying it, and I'm glad that people get it. You know what I mean? When I was done with it, when I finished editing, I was really worried. I was like, man, are people going to understand what this is? Like, are people going to get what we were trying to do with this? And it seems, for the most part, that everybody has, and everybody's been really cool and nice about it, and we're super happy about it. So it's cool.
Well, if you build it, they will come. So what's next for you, though? What projects do you have in your vast mind?
Absolutely. So right now I am in pre-production. So I have been I'm so honored that that Dead Vision is co-producing. It'll be the first co-production, I suppose, for my good friend Rocco Zevenbergen, who is a director that people would know from his first film, I Need You Dead, which is fantastic. If you haven't seen it, if anyone hasn't seen it, definitely check it out. But his sophomore feature is called FLAPJAX, and it will be a co-production that you know I've been brought on as a producer for, and I can't wait. We're in pre-production right now. We're going to shoot in April. There will be, if I may plug this, there will be an IndieGogo that will launch on the 11th of this month, October 11th. So if you're following me, Dead Vision, whatever, you won't miss it. But this is the biggest thing that I will have been a part of up until this point. This is a big project. So we are raising a little bit of money for it. So it's a wild movie. It's a wild movie, and everybody is going to be into it. I believe that. So that's what's next. And then what's next for like a kind of a Dead Vision production. We are working on, I'm still writing I'm on the second draft, I suppose, of the follow-up to Freak, which is going to be bigger, better, and uncut. So I can't wait for that as well. That'll probably start shooting next year. Definitely will start shooting next year as well. So I'm staying busy, man. I'm staying busy.
Well, if the listeners are hearing this podcast anywhere from the 11th on, we're going to have that link to the IndieGogo so you can help get this project off the ground. And like we always do, like we did with Dean Jacobs and The Trip, we helped that guy. He's He's got a lot of things on his plate right now, but he's got the trip going. He's actually in filming. We're going to do what we can to help your project as well.
That's
Small
amazing.
reach, but man, every little bit helps, I think. And
absolutely. And
we
to put
want to
it
do our
into,
part.
for sure. To put it into context for your listeners, I know that you had Ben Johnson on this podcast, director of Curse of the Werewolf. Rocco is of that same family as well. Rocco hasn't worked on Werewolf to my knowledge, but was very, very involved in Shakespeare Shitstorm, which is where Shithouse Productions was born, heading up Curse of the Werewolf and Secret of Cuck Island, and all of those. We're all connected. It's all one big happy family. So just to put it into a little, a frame of reference for everybody that really enjoyed that episode, which I know that they did. So
and
yeah,
Brandon Bassam actually wrote that one. Wrote Shakespeare Shitstorm.
That's correct. That's correct.
So.
Yep. So it's a lot of Troma connections. It's a lot of Werewolf, Cuck Island, Dead Vision crossover happening. So it's all good.
Well, if you don't network, you're never going to get anything done.
That's
so,
true.
Lucky, tell everybody where they can find you on your social medias, you and your work.
So I have a bunch of personal, Lucky Cerruti, Cerruti. You can find me wherever you'd like. That goes double for Dead Vision Productions. Pretty much everywhere it is at Dead Vision Productions. But if you go to the website, deadvisionproductions.com, we do have a shop. You can pick up some merch, the movies, whatever else that you'd like. And we're going to be, this next, year, I would say, will be a lot of updates as far as what's going on with Sleazo, with the new Freak movie, with FLAPJAX, with all of that. So definitely this is the time to kind of get in on the ground floor of whatever's coming next. So it's exciting. But yeah, follow us everywhere.
So make sure that you're checking the links in the episode bio, the episode description. It's all going to be in there. Links to the films, links where you can find Lucky online, IG, Twitter, wherever. We're going to get that information after we finish here. But guys, thank you for joining me. Lucky, I am so lucky that you were able to join me on such short notice. I do appreciate your time, man. You could have been doing a lot of things, but here you are wasting hours with me.
Dude, it's never a waste. It's such an honor. Thank you so much. I'm a big fan of what you're doing here, and I really appreciate the time you're taking to talk to me about whatever I have going on. So thank you. I really appreciate it.
Man, absolutely humbled. Guys, be sure to like, subscribe, share this episode on your social feeds. Go into the weekend looking for a fight or at least a good scary movie. And I want to remind you to find us on slashersports.com, on Twitter and TikTok at slashersports, on Instagram at slashersportsmedia. Everything in sports and entertainment, from college football to horror flicks. Now go forth and may you drink the blood of your enemies from the skulls of their children.